Great pleasure to have Edgar Whitley with us today from London School of Economics, walking through with us the topic, the role of peer review in academic scholarship and the review processes. Please, Edgar.
Okay, thank you very much. First thing that I just want to start off with, just to be clear about, because different journals have slightly different terms for different roles. The first one is the idea of the reviewer. So this is just the academic who reads a paper that's been submitted to the journal, makes a recommendation based on their reading of the paper. The second role is the review manager, and the review manager does literally what the name suggests. They manage the review process. They select the reviewers, they form an opinion based on the reviewer recommendations, and then that review decision then gets conveyed back to the authors. And then the third role is that of an editor. In terms of the review process, what we're really interested in is the review manager, the person who deals with the reviews that the reviewers have produced to form an opinion on what's going to happen to the particularly submitted paper. Why do we want journals and peer review? By having some independent experts evaluate the research, you have a good sense that the research that is published in peer-reviewed journals is of good quality and you can draw upon it for your own particular research findings. So academics rely on that peer review process to corroborate their research, to add value to it, because there is critical engagement with academic peers and academic experts before it appears in print. This is a paper that has appeared in what's known as a predatory journal. This is the kind of journal that basically you pay to get your articles published in. Now, in this extreme example, it's very clear that no academic eyes have come anywhere near this process. No quality assurance has taken place anywhere in this process. This paper just got accepted and they paid however many $1,000s for the paper to be published. As a reviewer, you are therefore supporting the body of knowledge in that field and also increasing your reputation as a participatory academic. And you become establishing yourself as an expert in that area of research. Another important benefit of acting as a reviewer is that you get to interact with cutting edge research before it has even been published. You get to exercise your critical thinking skills, and you do that in the benefit of a private arena. If you're not quite clear, you can spend a couple of days reading, clarifying, rereading, thinking through, etc., etc. You're also returning the favor. It makes sense for you to review other people's research so that they will then also have the obligation to review yours. Because if you don't do any reviews, the number of available reviewers gets reduced, and therefore your own submissions will also not be available. So it's repaying that courtesy or prepaying that courtesy for the other reviewers. And of course, as I said, by doing that, you're building a relationship with reputable journals, conferences, their editorial teams. How do you become a reviewer? Basically, every journal that you'll be interacting with has a review management website. Just log on, create an account, provide as many appropriate keywords as the system will allow you, so that the review managers have that ability to spot you as a potentially good reviewer. Doesn't hurt to also drop an email to the editors or the review managers saying that you've just created the account and that you are more than willing to act as a reviewer for that particular kind of journal. Sign up for any journal that you are interested in, but make sure that your focus then becomes on managing your workload when you get an invitation to review. Because the reviews that are most beneficial to authors, the reviews that are most helpful for review managers are thorough and specific. It's always better to tell the review manager, sorry, I can't do it in the timescale that you are asking because I have those other commitments.
When you find out that you don't have the time to make a commitment, you can always write to the one who invited you, and they would probably happily grant you an extension. Most editors will be happy to grant you 2 more weeks rather than having to find another reviewer.
If this is something that you would be a great reviewer for, but you can't do it right now, absolutely go back to the review manager and explain your circumstances. The slight difference is sometimes I have chosen you just because I need a reviewer who knows something about, let's say, digital health as a broad topic. And in that case, I might go, thanks for letting me know. I've got 12 other people from Hagen and Berlin that will also be good digital health reviewers. So I'll see whether one of those others is available instead, but I'll bear you in mind for when you're next available. In other cases, I chose you because I think you are the best person to do that review. And in that case, if it's going to be 3 more weeks late, then absolutely I will be prepared to wait.
For unexperienced reviewers, what is the scope in terms of times and resources? So I guess you're asking how much time should you as a young researcher allocate for a paper like the one that we got to review for today's workshop, right?
It's incredibly difficult to kind of come up with this much time for any one particular paper. Realistically, at the start of your career, you're not going to be inundated with invitations. And so maybe you accept the first one and then see how long that one takes you. And then at the end of that process, kind of go, okay, that one was the 3rd one I've done. They typically take a day, and I probably got a day free in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And this is a topic that I'm really interested in, so I will be prepared to set aside the day.
What I have been doing usually is I read the paper in the evening or at night because I need to make sure that there's 0 distractions. That maybe takes me 2 hours. And like you said, I annotate the PDF, make some comments while going through, and then I sleep a night over it. And then the next morning, it's the first thing I have on my desk. Then I write down the review. And while I write down the review, I also reflect and maybe tune my assessment. And then I try to be done by lunch so that I can have my lunch break with a good feeling of accomplishment. So that's sort of my ideal time.
Hopefully, the review manager has chosen you as a reviewer because they think that you would be a good reviewer for it. They're not sending you something that's completely novel. A really good practice is to have at least a skim read of the paper just to double check that it's not a sneaky paper that confused you by not actually doing what it said in the title or the abstract. Sometimes the papers have particular kind of expertise skills. Reviewing a meta review is very different than reviewing a regular paper. And it may well be that you have never reviewed meta reviews before. So again, sometimes there's an opportunity to flag potential reasons for not doing it, even though it didn't say in the title, this is a meta review of, etc., etc. You should also seek to avoid conflicts of interest. For example, if you work in the same department or the same institute as one of the authors, but that again is one where it's better for you to flag that issue up with the review manager. It's not for you to decide, it's for the review manager to decide, because it could be that it's such a small community that everybody else says, I really can't review this paper because I used to be in that research institute, I have co-written with them, etc., etc. And you're the only person left who knows who it is, but doesn't have a serious conflict. But always leave it to the review manager to make that final decision. Just make them as fully aware as possible. And of course, what's interesting for this workshop, I didn't say you must review, I invited you to review.